G'day guys, this is Tyr and welcome back to another Fallout 76 build video. I'm sorry this took a while to make, but I really wanted to make sure I perfected this build for all of you people to watch and play with. It truly is a masterpiece, as you'll come to see later on in the video. And I've been a little bit sick as of late, so yeah, sorry again for the lack of content. Anyways, as always for these videos, a brief explanation, backstory, and then I'll show the build's perk cards, weapons, armor, mutations, and everything else necessary for the chosen playstyle. As always, feel free to skip ahead to the actual explanation and the build portion of this video if that's all you're here for. But anyways, with the addition of the Gorse shotgun in the Wastelanders DLC, it inspired me to revamp my 5th character and turn it into a purely shotgun focused build. I literally leveled up this character from level 93 to its current level, 168. That's 75 painful level ups to completely revamp this build to what it is now, for you guys. But enough of that. As you guys already know from the title of this video, this is a Bloodied shotgun orientated build, and it can work devastatingly well in solo or team based gameplay, with the switch of a few perks, which I will display later on in the video, but let me just preface that this really puts the hurt on the enemies. Let's get into it. This is Odin, the Enforcer. Odin is, for the lack of a better term, deranged, insane, and mentally incapable of differentiating between right and wrong. Odin has a bloodlust that honestly seems unquenchable. There is not much to tell of Odin's life before the war, but one thing is for certain. Odin is not this character's real name. The real one was lost to the day the bombs dropped. Because for roleplay purposes, we must yet again pretend that this character did not actually ever enter Vault 76. And instead is a survivor, in the same way Ragnar was. Except he didn't hunker down and take shelter with the Free States. Odin was trapped for years on end in a collapsed and now unreachable part of Charleston, with nothing more than his trusty shotgun and a supply of food and water that he had brought with him. In the building he was trapped in was a lot of history of the old world, but most was more so mythology than anything actually factual, as most of the data was corrupted. Our survivor here had really taken a liking to the Norse Allfather, known as Odin, and claimed to be his reincarnation. Obviously this is kinda what started his descent into madness. After 20 long years of surviving off of what was left of his food supply, and whatever mutated animal and insect happened to find its way into Odin's little slice of hell, something miraculous happened. A sense of heat and sickness came over Odin, followed closely by what could only be described as explosions and screeching. A scorch beast, something Odin had never laid eyes on before, blew apart the crumbling building he was trapped in with its sonic blasts, effectively freeing Odin. Both scared and filled with rage, Odin fled into the wilderness with nothing but his trusty shotgun and fractured psyche. So that's it. That's the story of Odin the Enforcer. I always enjoy giving little bits of character and origin stories to my build. I don't know. I hope you guys enjoy it too. Anyways, now let's get into the actual build. The base special stats are as follows: 12 strength, 6 perception, 7 endurance, 4 charisma, 8 intelligence, 11 agility, and 8 luck. These are what you will need to work towards to get the shotgunner build that I have perfected. There are no food build or quality of life bullshit perks that aren't required here. Everything is purely here for the sole purpose to be as devastating as possible to the enemy. But keep in mind that there is room to switch out temporarily for crafting perks like Gunsmith or Makeshift Warrior if you do have the need for that. We must also keep in mind that this is, once again, a Bloodied build, so that means it's really beneficial for us to wear unyielding armor. I will go more in depth about that in the armor section, but as you can see from the unyielding effect, when we are low health, our special stats are as follows: 17 strength, 27 perception, 5 endurance, 17 charisma, 17 intelligence, 31 agility, and 22 luck. Since we are a shotgunner, none of these attributes are particularly valuable to us besides perception and agility, mainly because using VATS is highly advantageous whilst using shotguns, as I'll show in the weapons section of this video and the background footage whilst I'm fighting stuff. But all of our attributes are really well rounded and in a really great spot for this build. Before we get into the explanation of the perks, I feel I have to reiterate the purpose of this build. This is a bloodied, explosive shotgun build, meant to deal the most damage as humanly possible with the shotgun class of weaponry, whilst also being able to tank the most amount of damage we possibly can at the same time. You don't have to stick with the bloodied or the explosive part of this build, as I will show alternative choices at the end of the video, but this is the most effective combat shotgunner build in my opinion. Especially with the release of the Norse shotgun, that thing is just so overpowered in this build's hands, it's crazy. Anyways, now let's take a look at our perk cards. In the strength skill tree, we obviously have all 3 max ranks of the shotgunner damage related perk cards. It's a no-brainer. Then secondly, I have scattershot to help keep my reload speed with all shotguns insanely fast. But when I am fighting the Scorchbeast Queen, I do take the scattershot perk out to put in blocker, so that I am more able to tank melee damage from her and all of her spawns. For perception, I have chosen max rank of concentrated fire and skeet shooter, purely for the reasons of accuracy. One makes me insanely accurate outside of VATS, and the other insanely accurate inside of VATS. It's a no-brainer for any shotgun build to have good accuracy and tight pallet spread. Trust me, it's needed. In endurance, we want max rank of life giver so that while we are at low health, we will have that constant magical health regeneration effect that will help keep us alive. And also fireproof to shield us from the Scorchbeast blasts, and to stop our own bullets from killing ourselves. Obviously, if you don't plan on using explosive versions of shotguns, then that is 3 points that you can dedicate elsewhere in the build. But as I always say, deviating from the build on screen in any way will make you a far less effective combatant. Next up is Charisma. Our 4 points here can be used for solo play with max rank of Lone Wanderer for some insane damage resistance and AP regeneration. Or when we decide to play on a team, we can switch it out for rank 1 of Stranger Numbers and max rank of either Tenderizer, Suppressor, or whatever 3 card perk that you feel suits your needs. I recommend Tenderizer though because it's another damage boost. Who doesn't love another damage boost? But I do feel like this is an appropriate time to mention that if you have ever thought about playing a medic type role, coincidentally enough, shotguns are the perfect medic's weapon to have on. And my buddy Neolux13 will have his own build video going in depth about that very soon, so feel free to check him out in the top right now. Anyways, on to intelligence. Obviously this is a pattern with most of my builds. I love using bloodied explosive weaponry, it's just my thing, and it just so happens that it is what deals the most damage per shot, hitting those big boy numbers. So for this bloodied explosive shotgunning build, it's essential that we have both Nerd Rage and Demolition Expert, both max rank for maximum effectiveness. However though, if bloodied or explosives is not your thing, then this is either 3, 5 or 8 perk points that you can dedicate elsewhere into the build for your own personal version of this build. But I'll save that discussion for the alternative playstyles section. Next is agility. This can go 2 directions, if you want to sneak, which is possible with shotguns, or if you want to run and gun. The sneak option is simple. Use Enforcer, Covert Operative, Sneak, and Escape Artist, which does leave you with 1 unused point slot, which you can use at your discretion. Or, the run and gun alternative, which is my favourite, is to use the perk cards Enforcer, Action Boy, and max rank of Adrenaline for a huge increase to your damage and AP regen, which is pretty important. Also, let me explain why the Enforcer perk is so important with explosive shotguns. So basically, with the Enforcer perk, everything you shoot becomes instantly crippled and unable to fight back, and in most cases, unable to walk. It's actually quite cruel and unfair to the AI, but hey, it's in the game, so use it at your own advantage. Basically, 1 shot from a well-placed explosive pellet spread of your shotgun, and the legs of whatever you just shot at is crippled, leaving it immobile, unable to fight back. So it's pretty good for a support build as well. And lastly, in luck, obviously, we want to take Bloodied Mess for the extra 15% damage. Serendipity for the survivability while we are at low health, and Starch Genes so we can keep our chosen mutations. Speaking of which, they are as follows. Adrenal Reaction for even more synergies at increased damage while at low health. Bird Bones for the increased agility and reduced fall damage. Carnivore because it makes sustaining hunger way easier. Feel free to use Herbivore if that's more your thing though. Eagle Eyes for more perception and more critical damage, which is really huge on shotguns. Grounded for increased energy resistance. This one is kinda a no-brainer since there are literally no energy shotguns in the game. The Gorse shotgun still counts as ballistic, even though when you craft it, it becomes under a energy weapon category, and the Tesla shotgun and laser shotgun, plasma shotgun, whatever you want to call them, they don't count as actual shotguns, they still come under the rifleman perk cards, so like I said, no energy shotguns in the game. Marsupial for more carry weight and jump height, a staple in all endgame builds. Plague Walker because, as I always say, it literally has no downsides. You can't control when you'll get the disease, so you might as well allow it to deal area of effect damage to your enemies when you do get one. You know, no brainer. Scaly Skin for more DR and ER, can't hurt, and the downside to agility there really doesn't matter that much. And finally, Speed Demon for obvious reasons. Who doesn't love moving faster and reloading faster? Now, Class Freak is not needed because none of these negatives are actually negatives. The minuses to our special points are counteracted by Unyielding, AP and HP loss are counteracted by Unyielding as well, and Life Giver, so on and so forth. This build is carefully thought out, as are all my builds, so Class Freak is not needed. It's a waste of 3 points. Stop suggesting it, people. Before I go into these tests, let me just quickly go over what these weapons actually have as legendary effects for all of you guys, so that you guys know exactly what I'm working with. There we are. Anyways, now let's move on to weapons. You could honestly use shotguns of any variety. I have a huge collection ranging from a quad explosive double barrel, a vampire's explosive combat shotgun, to the fancy pump action shotgun, all the way to the bloodied limb damage Gorse shotgun. All of these are perfectly viable whilst within nerd rage threshold against regular enemies, but against tougher enemies it's better to use what we are built for, the bloodied shotguns. Let's just quickly compare how much all of our weapons increase their damage as our health goes from 100% to below 20%, which is activating nerd rage threshold. So starting off, as you can see, we're at full health and our bloodied Gorse shotgun now does 704 damage. Bloodied combat shotgun does 285 damage. Fancy pump shotty does 217 damage. Our quad does 364. And the vampire's combat shotty does 285 as well. And now that we have hit nerd rage threshold and are really low health, let's see how much this increases. So now while our health is looking like this, the bloodied Gorse shotgun massively increases to 2363 damage, which is just fucking insane. The bloodied combat shotgun goes up to 958 damage, the fancy pump shotgun goes to 374, the quad shotty goes to 627, and the vampire's combat shotgun goes up to 491 damage. Now for the bloodied weapons, these are obviously some significant improvements, but honestly all of these weapons are completely viable for the build. The vampires will keep you alive, and is a good alternative to using a Stimpack. The quad and fancy pump action shotgun, which is just basically anti-armor if you didn't know, might not have that high of damage, but they are still incredibly useful if you want to play a purely support character, because you'll be able to cripple enemy limbs and just make them completely immobile. Because let's be honest, the best defense is completely removing your enemy's ability to move, therefore removing their ability to attack. But a reminder that the ideal legendary weapon effects for this build are bloodied explosive. And before I move into the armor, let me just go through what all of their legendary effects are, so that you guys know exactly what I'm working with once more. Now let's go over armor. If you're following my build to the absolute letter, I highly recommend grinding out decent Secret Service armor as I have. It's not as hard as you think to get good rolls on as these armors as you think, since you can specifically choose to mass craft these bad boys instead of trying your luck at the purveyor or by farming legendary enemies. But anyways, absolutely go for Secret Service for all future builds and past builds I have made. But if you can't get your hands on those, then either combat armor or leather armor will do just fine as a substitute. But if you're planning on using this build as a bloodied build, then it is my strongest recommendation that you aim for unyielding on every single piece of armor. In an ideal world, you would aim to get an unyielding with Sentinel and AP refresh as the second and third star effects, but that isn't always possible, so just use what you're able to use whilst getting your armor situated. As you can see, I have all pieces of armor unyielding, almost all of them are AP refresh, none of them are Sentinel sadly, and most are Secret Service pieces. I'm happy with what I have for the time being, but it isn't the best of the best for this build, so keep that in mind. So another reminder that the ideal armor legendary effects for this build are unyielding with Sentinel and increased AP refresh speed. But like I said, work with what you get. The main thing you need to go for is unyielding armor. It massively helps while you're a Bloodied build. Now let's talk about alternative methods of play. Obviously Bloodied and or explosive is not everyone's cup of tea. My first alternative play style suggestion is that you play as a full health character. We will retain some damage output and tanking, but not all of it. Basically, armor and weaponry wise, you will just need to use junkies, shotguns, explosive if you want to, instead of the Bloodied, and use Vanguard armor instead of the unyielding. Perk card wise, switch out Nerd Rage and Serendipity for honestly whatever your little heart desires. And obviously, if you do like the Bloodied, just not the explosive weapons, then I recommend using either Bloodied or Junkies shotguns with the limb damage secondary prefix. They are insanely powerful. Then obviously, perk card wise, take off Demo Expert for whatever you want. I can flesh out this style of play if you'd like in another build video if you guys would like me to do that. It is basically just a full health version of this build. So let me know for sure in the comments down below. Now that is everything I have to say about this build. I do believe this is the best Bloodied explosive shotgun build out there on YouTube. If you guys have any suggestions or improvements, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video and this is your first time here, then be sure to subscribe and even leave a like on the video. I do put a lot of effort into these amazing informational videos for all of you amazing people. Speaking of amazing people, these guys and gals are my channel members. They are awesome and support the channel in a huge way that I just can't thank enough. But actually I do have to thank a few of the new people on this list, because during my Nuclear Winter livestream about a week ago, we got a little Harbinger and Supporter sub-train going, and I'd just like to show my appreciation for the 7 new channel members that we got during that stream. They are Raddy Star, 8ball, Angela105, Stormchaser 1996, Easy, Blubjub, and Yimu the Fourth. So yes, since you all became members at pretty much the exact same time during the same stream, I figured I'd show my appreciation to you guys in my next video. So thank you guys once again. And finally, as always, Discord and social media is in the description below if you are interested. I've been Tyr, and welcome to Valhalla.